Well, I bet you guys never expected to see me review another episode of Teen Titans, which is going to sound really weird if you're watching these in playlist order, because I'm probably going to end up putting this review probably immediately after Can I Keep Him, since we see Silky in the episode, which means this does take place at the very least after he comes into the show. Though this, the Teen Titans Lost episode, doesn't seem to have a canon placement within the show's continuity. At least not beyond that. I'm not even sure if this episode is technically canon to the show at all. It's basically a half episode that was made for Postopia.com, a defunct website featuring games based on Post serials, of all things, that existed to promote the show, but also draw people to that website with this exclusive episode that only ever aired there. And frankly, I'd love to link you to this episode somewhere online, but the place that I found it a couple weeks back when I downloaded it so that I could watch it for this review doesn't have it anymore. I will try to find another place that has it so I can link it in the description, because it's pretty interesting to watch. It's like, I'd like to say it's like getting another episode of the show, but like, it's not great, guys. Like, it's fine. There's definitely things to like here. After the brief scene at the very beginning introducing the villain of the piece, a punk rock type guy named Punk Rocket, who busts into an orchestra hall and starts causing chaos for chaos's sake with his powerful sonic electric guitar. We get a scene of 4 of the 5 Titans, everybody but Beast Boy, just kind of chilling out. Starfire is making her weird Tamaranian food for people. Raven's reading a book, but she's still doing so in the presence of her friends. And we even get to see some of the friendly, goofy relationship between Cyborg and Robin, the purported best friends out of this group that we never really saw once the show started to give us angsty Robin more often than not. Usually Beast Boy was inserted into that slot instead. Then Beast Boy comes in with a boombox playing his music way too loud, but like, they still don't really bother him about it. These characters are all just content to be around each other. It doesn't really become a problem until he plugs it into one of the tower's systems to amplify the sound, cheesing everybody off and actually damaging Cyborg's systems a little bit, only to reveal after the fact that he probably only has his music up as loud as he does because he's got really bad waxy buildup in his ears, which I wouldn't even mention since it's basically a gag, but this gag is actually what defeats the villain, so I felt like I needed to establish Chekhov's earwax. They get the call to go take on the villain, though, and they don't do great. His powers are really ridiculously strong, but this does give us a pretty decent action scene where we see the characters using their powers to help each other out, and showcasing their powers really well. This was, after all, basically an ad for the show, so it makes sense to show a little bit of what each character can do. But it's weird. I don't know if somebody other than the regular studio that animated this show animated this episode. Like, it's a really crisp, clean-looking episode, but there's just something about the action here that feels a little off. Like, it still feels snappy, but it's snappy in a different way than the action in the main series is. There's just a little bit more wind-up and a little bit more follow-through after basically every movement these characters make during the fight. Like, the choreography is still really good, but it ends up feeling like a half-second slower. Like, each movement feels like a half-second slower than anything in the main show. And it doesn't ruin it or anything, but it just makes it feel different. And the resolution to this whole thing is just stupid. Eventually, Punk Rocket reveals that he's been playing his electric guitar unplugged this whole time, that the sound coming off of it has been like a superpower or something. But then he plugs it into a wall of amps, and suddenly he's significantly more powerful, which does to a point make sense. But then Beast Boy, taking advantage of the fact that he has that waxy buildup, so he can actually get closer to Punk Rocket than the others can, taunts him into turning up the guitar, shorting out the amps the same way he shorted out some systems in the tower when he turned up his music volume at the beginning. And not only is Punk Rocket able to hear Beast Boy's taunting over the incredibly loud music that he himself is playing. But once the amps are destroyed and his guitar is unplugged again, suddenly he's unable to send sonic waves through it anymore, and they beat him easily. It was really stupid. It made no sense at all. But then we get one more cute scene at the end where everybody except for Beast Boy is wearing earplugs. I assume so that they can accommodate Beast Boy more easily and he can spend time with them while they're all doing their own thing together, too. Which, like, he ends up leaving the room because he thinks they're ignoring him. But aside from that, it was a really cute scene. I liked it a lot. Overall, though, there's really not much to this. Like, even the villain is super simple. And yeah, most of the villains in this show are, if they're, like, one-off or more minor types of characters. But, like, this guy was exceedingly simple. He busts into an orchestral hall to do chaos for chaos's sake because he's a punk guy. But, like, that's not really what punk is about. Punk is about being, like, counterculture and making a statement. He was just being a douchebag. Like, there's nothing really wrong with it. It served its purpose. But his motivations were so simple that he's forgettable. He's a throwaway villain. Which, like, of course he is. This is, again, debatably not even canon. But, like, I don't know. Give him a mission statement. Have it be that he showed up to disrupt this hoity-toity event. He's making a statement against the bourgeoisie or something. But he took it too far. I don't know. There didn't need to be much. Just a throwaway line. Anything that gave him a little more substance. In the end, it was nice to see these characters doing their thing again. And, again, this last episode wasn't without merit. But, like, it's not something I'm ever going to bother to revisit again, probably. All that said, though, guys, if you have seen the Teen Titans last episode, what did you think of it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video, share it with anyone else who you think would enjoy my content, subscribe if you haven't. You can also check out links to my various social medias, as well as many ways you can help out the channel. Those will be in the video description, but either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.